Welcome everybody back to Tattooing Out Loud podcast. Today we have a special episode shot in location at Iktomi Tattoo Minneapolis. And before I introduce the artist, we kind of start right off into a conversation. We kick things off at the drawing table before they start tattooing, and then we'll go right into the intro. On a side note, we picked up a new sponsor for the episode. Shout out to Good Judy, your go-to source for eco-friendly tattoo supplies. During the conversation, we highlight the company, also the mission they stand by, and they officially teamed up with the podcast. So now, if you are a listener or viewer, Good Judy is offering a 15% discount on your order. Use promo code TattooingOutLoud01 at checkout to receive your discount. They've recently opened up a new location in the United States for faster shipping, also free shipping for any purchases over $200. They have the largest selection of certified, compositable, and biodegradable supplies in the industry. You can find out more information about the company at goodjudy.ca. And don't forget, there's a promo code available upon your next checkout. Everyone that works here is here, right?
Shannon's not here.
Shannon's not here. Alexi's not here.
As a full shop, how many guys work here?
11?
11 heads.
11 of us. Yeah.
Dude, how do you manage all that? Right?
It's kind of nice that like everyone does their own thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I don't really manage everyone. Like, you know what I mean? So
they have their own kind of schedule.
Everyone pays, rent and has their own key. So they come and go as they wish.
Oh, sure.
And then, I try to just show up as like shop owner for like shop needs and social media and stuff. But like,
you guys don't have like a shop, like a manager, right? You kind of handle
everybody.
everybody.
It's sort of, again, everyone manages himself, and then, I'll do some like curating and like organizing and stuff like that,
right?
Promoting, but even that, like, different people show up in ways to like promote. And I mean, I think like people recognize that, I'm not just tattoo shop owner or tattooer. Like, I also do the nonprofit stuff. I do a lot of like cultural things. Every once in a while I'll get like a cool art gig or a mural gig or something like that. And I think people see how torn I am in responsibilities, and like different people in the shop will show up and take care of aspects of running the shop. You know
kind
what I
of
mean?
like with their own weight too.
Yeah. Like Coleman will take it on himself to like promote something on Facebook. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, or share certain things. A lot of us have access to the social media stuff, so we can like just show up when we can and do things.
Yeah, nowadays it's kind of like expected too. If you're coming into the game, you have to handle your own, or it's hard to come in with no clients. I had a conversation with Mantis outside about it. I was like, coming out here, there's still a lot of clients that drive out here from Duluth. I think that's pretty awesome,
Yeah, right.
I'm only been out of prison now for a little over 5 years, and it's when I came out, I knew the kind of person I wanted to be, and I had been like a toxic, self-centered version of that my entire adult life. You know what I mean? And like, no matter how much I always wanted to like be a good guy or be present in society in a healthy way, I'd always been like renegade street tattooer artist,
underground,
you know what I mean? That just like always like carried around that shame and didn't know how to show up to be like, I don't know. I hate saying the word leader or like organizer or something like that, but like, just to like have a role like that in society, I guess I never had the courage to do that. And then when I got out of prison, I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna have to get used to making these choices and being that person. And luckily it just kind of like worked out. I think a lot of it just came from this like ideology I had in my head, and I just was like surrendered to just showing up that way, because I feel like it was always like my intuition to do that kind of stuff, or to like share and be helpful and put others before myself. And I'd always just chosen the easier route to do not that. And so I think like as opportunities started happening socially for me, it was just like, all right, I got to make sure that like, I have this ideology in my head, and I just need to start being that role.
Yeah.
And luckily it just worked out.
Not a lot of business owners have that off the gate
I mean, a lot of people have to develop it as we go, but then again, a lot of us didn't choose to be or ever think we were going to be a business owner, you know?
Oh yeah, no, I
It's
didn't.
like,
I honestly, when I got out of prison 5 years ago, I was never going to tattoo again.
right.
I was
You have,
afraid
like,
of the
connected
using.
to something like
Yeah, you know, I was afraid of losing my sobriety.
right,
And you know, first and foremost for me at that time was my sobriety and being healthy. And I just didn't see a healthy avenue through tattooing because I guess that was just all I had known up until that point was renegade tattooing, and I didn't think I was going to be able to figure out a way to like
break that,
tattoo without wanting to get high or
do
be
something.
triggered.
Yeah, something that triggers or fall alongside of that. It's very interesting to see what you built. You know what I mean? In what, 2 years?
So yeah, I feel like the action part was like the last 2 years. It was like 3 years of just generating ideas and like putting an idea together and making it and kind of like presenting it to different people and being like, is this good enough? You know what I mean? Because I don't know, I didn't know shit about running a business. I mean, I got super lucky. A friend of mine opened up a treatment center over in North Minneapolis, and she and her husband were in the position to like elevate me to be a business owner. And, you know, I always joke around with them, like looking back now, like, you know, what a bad business choice. You know what I mean? To like invest in someone with no business experience that, you know,
bet it all on black.
only
you know what I mean?
literally only had a couple years
at
of
the
sobriety.
roulette table. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and
it's
they
tough.
were just like, yeah, we'll finance you $250,000. You know what I mean? And we're willing to put our name on a lease for you for 5 years.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's
and
wild to think.
yeah, you know what I mean? And like
without any kind of knowing what kind of return or reward.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it was all just on some like, you know, I trust you with the bag. You know what I mean? You're my friend. Like, and yeah, you know, and I look now that I have some business experience and I'm like, I've taken out business loans.
Sure.
And I'm just like looking at them like, what a fucking risk. You know what I mean? Like what like just out of like love, kind of like, yeah, you know what? We're going to do this for you. Right. You know, because we care about you and we have faith in you.
I don't know you, but I care about you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. And that in itself was an interesting story. Like we used to sell dope together and like run around in the streets.
Business partners since day one, right?
You know what I mean? I feel like that was where a lot of this experience came from, was just like this, figuring out how to like, you know, maintain and like take on some like financial risk and like hustle around and just like be creative. You know what I mean? Is about like, you know, okay, so maybe this aspect isn't working out, like out of desperation in the streets, like you just kind of like learn to like flip it over and be like, how can I make this work then? You know what I mean? And like just being creative in desperation on like, how do I keep this business going if this aspect doesn't seem to be working? Like giving up's not a choice. Like that's
how you fail. I mean, that's ultimately how you stop, is the give up, you know, like the perishable skill. It's like the only way you can fail is by quitting. So
yeah. And I definitely, I had some business failures, like the art center next door. Before it was a nonprofit, we had this like for-profit business model over there, and it basically just like fell on its face, right? Like, it was like a dreamer's business model of like, oh, we can, you know, we'll make money by, you know, just advertising for businesses, and we'll turn all that money into art supplies that they give us. And you know, like I just had these like hopes and dreams about how easy it was going to be, you know what I mean? And it wasn't.
It's hard.
And it totally just, it failed financially. And you know, all my friends that were in the nonprofit world were like, you know, you have a great idea, you should just start a nonprofit. And
so is that how it kind of, that's where it sprouted from, huh? Like people just kind of helping you with rebuilding the idea, kind of?
Yeah. Honestly, the idea for that space came out of the failures of the old idea. Like people were trying to donate to us And I was like, well, I mean, technically I'm a for-profit. I can't like take in donations.
Right.
But what you can do is you can just leave stuff that you want to leave for other artists. You can just leave it over in this area. And we have some stairs over there. It's like a staircase that just goes to a wall. So it's like a stairway to nothing.
Sure.
And I was like, you know, so there's nothing really to do with that space.
Yeah.
So it was like, if you want to leave stuff for other artists, just set it on those stairs. And it'll be like a food shelf, but for art supplies.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'll write up their art shelf or something on the wall.
Art shelf,
and then I was all like, And it was sort of like, I always joke with people, it was like that classic, like Indigenous vision moment where it was like this lightning bolt hit my head and I was like, oh shit. And I just kind of like saw it all in that moment of the like this vision of like, fuck, art shelf. You know what I mean? And like, what a great sort of like idea, concept, and started doing some like market research. And it's like
good brand too. It's a way to brand it, you know?
Yeah, you know what I mean? And there's nothing else out there that's like art shelf, which was surprising. And if there was, maybe they didn't make it.
Right.
And I just dug around and I couldn't find anything else that like represented that anywhere in the country of like a food shelf for art supplies. You know, people can come and, you know, whatever is on the shelves they can take and people can just leave gently used art supplies or donate new art supplies.
Yeah.
But also being like a space that's just open every day for people to come and use in times of like social crisis or like depression or anxiety, but also to just bring your kids.
I didn't know they were your kids, but I was like, oh, cool. There's random kids are allowed to come in and just draw or whatever. I thought that was amazing. But you guys do events in there, right? Like, like you guys host seminars or some sort of like workshops or.
Yep. We do a lot of like sobriety stuff, just because a lot of us are in sobriety, so we tend to center a lot of like the easier program, like I would call it like the low-hanging fruit demographic for us to hit.
It's not quite AA, but it's like
people, it's people like us. So like there's a lot of people that get turned off by AA or NA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because it's so structured and faith-based and stuff. So we offer these Friday night meetings where it's like we have a guest artist who's in recovery will come and speak. There's a pizza like business that's huge in the Twin Cities, sort of Minnesota area, called Pizza Luce.
Oh yeah,
they
whenever we did the Minneapolis convention, they would bring like the boxes of that.
Yeah.
Pizza Luce sponsors those sobriety meetings. A lot of our programming and meetings and stuff next door are just geared towards like people in sobriety.
That's cool.
But we're trying to get grants to do other stuff because it also sucks. Like, I don't know anything about grant writing, so a lot of that space just comes out of, again, like hustling and knocking on people's spiritual door and being like, hey, you should help us. You know what I mean?
Of your heart.
Yeah. Give us your resources. Help us.
I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen a space like this where it's combined. I mean, I know shops that do the workshops in-house, like the seminar stuff, but one thing to have a whole designated area just to give a chance to people to, you know, it separates the shop too, where you can have that door to be like, okay, this space is specifically for this, the recovery, you know, it's like practicing the art, and it's a good way to release an outlet.
Part of my recovery, and I mean, anyone that works a 12-step program, part of it is service work, right? And like helping out those that were in a position that you were. And I feel like I started recognizing how much helping other artists that are in early sobriety, how much like helping them or giving resources to those people really helps fill my spiritual cup and keeps me sober, right? So like just having a space like that and showing up for that community, my community in that aspect, is what helps keep me sober too. You know what I mean? And
is that like a sense of like a new purpose?
And just community building. You know what I mean? Like we now have like regulars where it's just like, this is their spot that they come. You know what I mean? And it's intense when people come to the space and they're like, if it wasn't for Art Shelf, I would have relapsed today.
That's
or like,
crazy
you know what I mean? Like, I was just struggling. I was struggling at my treatment center, and just to be able to come here and make a mess and paint something
Yeah.
truly, you know, saved my life today.
Saved your life.
You know what I mean? And so
A
like
lot of people see that in tattooing.
this whole thing is going to be black and gray, right?
This one is. That's why she wanted
Right.
this special one because it was their friend.
That's the photograph she took.
Okay.
Iridescent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mostly black.
I'm just trying to think without it.
But
Do you have a picture where it's way more represented? I just don't want to guess on iridescence and have.
This is my version
Yeah.
of iridescent. Yeah.
Do you have a representation of it though?
No.
You're just gonna just guess? Well, of course I can do that, but yeah, but I have too many friends that are experts in birds and shit.
Cool. Let's do this.
Welcome back to Tattooing Out Loud podcast. Today we are filming on location at Iktomi Tattoo, Minnesota, Minneapolis. Go ahead and give you guys your name, how long you guys been tattooing, what kind of style you guys tattoo. I know, D, you mentioned that it's kind of hard to define your style if you had a style, but if you could wrap it in a bow, put it together, like what kind of things you guys like to tattoo, things like that.
Hi, my name's Dee. I have been tattooing for 7, almost 8 years. I think in about like 2 months, it'll be 8 years. My style, I would say, is kind of like a lot of black and gray, but I've been really moving over to like color. I really like to do neo-traditional and realism and basically anything.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. My name is Willard. I'm owner of Iktomi Tattoo. I've been tattooing for 15 years now, 15-ish. I would say I kind of tattoo a little bit of everything. I feel like my dream setting would be doing a different style tattoo on rotation so that way I don't have any like immediate repeats.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to like do one style for a while or like, you know, for a day and then just have the next day be something a little different.
Sure.
That'd be sick.
So you've been at this location, you mentioned it's been like what, 2.5
Yep.
years or so?
Yeah, 2.5 years. This September we would have been like open to the public for 2 years, but we've been in the building for 2.5 years now.
So where did all that sprout, the name, and like how did this location come about to help you like pull the trigger and say, I'm going to open a shop here, like the vision, because that starts off with a vision, right? You see a building and a lot of people may not see the tattoo shop, you know, in their head, but how did all this come out as far as how'd you find the building? How'd you decide to name it? What's behind the name?
Yeah, so the name Iktomi is the spider trickster spirit in Lakota, I wouldn't say folklore. It's definitely, Iktomi is part of the creation story. Iktomi, the trickster spirit, tricked the people to come out of a cave in South Dakota, Wind Cave. So Iktomi plays a role as like a spider spirit in like creation story, but also there's like just always this like classic character in like storytelling and like Lakota culture about like Iktomi the trickster, and would always just be like learning like life lessons, like almost as like a buffoon or through like weird like moral stories and stuff. I always identified Iktomi with like the spider and the spider spirit, and my dad was always a trickster, like a jokester. He was a teacher here in Minneapolis, but you know, I'm enrolled in Standing Rock Reservation, so you know, I try to represent my culture well, and the name just kind of came out as like a nod to my dad.
Sure.
And also I wanted to like normalize Indigenous language and business more. Like some other like tattoo shop owners were like, well, you can't name it that. Like nobody will even know how to pronounce it or spell it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah, it's not the typical, like you mentioned, you could have named it. What word did you use earlier when you were dirtbagging it? When you were in the scumbag days?
Yeah. Just like, scumbag tattoos would have been great.
Scumbag tats. This was your first motivational pursuit of reinventing yourself, right? When opening the shop during this program, or what made you decide, like, hey, I'm going to pull a trigger and open up be a business owner?
Like I was saying, like a friend of mine who owned a treatment center over in North Minneapolis, she and her husband were willing to take, financial risk and like lending me and enabling me through money and opportunity to open a business, like they, for whatever reason, I wouldn't want to say it like that, but, they ended up just having faith in me and, were willing to take some risks and investing into me as an entrepreneur. And that's kind of how the shop came into fruition, is friends were willing to invest in me as a person. And
for sure,
I got super fortunate in finding this location in the neighborhood I was living at the time. And, I used to live further away than I do now. I lived like maybe a half mile away from here. And, I was just kind of driving around, looking in windows and seeing where was, a spot to looking in windows.
Yeah, window shopping.
Checking door knobs.
Yeah, checking doorknobs. Yeah.
One day I, found this space. I was like driving around looking for, somewhere kind of off the beaten path, but still like accessible.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have like a traditional street shop for some reason. I kind of like the idea of it being tucked away in the neighborhood and sort of like a layer, and not so much like a full like walk-in street shop. I like the idea of having like a little hideout.
It's kind of exclusive, and that's the vibe I got, man. It's industrial, and it's almost like you're underground when you walk in
bunker.
Here. Yeah, it's a little bunker. It's your guys' settlement.
I'm enrolled. I go to ceremony regularly. I actually organize this run that happens every Christmas. It goes from Fort Snelling, which is like an old fort over here in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
This run goes from Fort Snelling to Mankato, and it's to honor the Dakota 38 that were hung by Abraham Lincoln.
Dang.
My dad started the run back in 1987.
Jeez, that's wild.
Or no, 1986. And I ended up, I was asked to kind of take over this run, and it was an honor for me because I was just out of prison, and I've always known about the run, but I was always in like an unhealthy way, so I could never like do anything more besides like stand on the sidelines.
Right.
And, I was asked to organize the run, so I started organizing that run, and I really tried to just show up for my, Indigenous community as much as I can, which, owning a tattoo shop and, having my nonprofit art center, it really enabled me to like step up in a lot of different roles in community and show up for my culture.
Talk about history, huh? That's pretty wild. It sounds like from everything you guys have been doing here, there's a lot of community involvement, and especially how you're reaching out for the people that are bypassing a program to just find this almost as like a hub or a center, you know what I mean? That's actually pretty dope that you started that. How did you find everybody that works here? Do they all just kind of like, did you know all these artists already? Or because you have what, 11, 12 artists? How many did you say?
No, I didn't know any of these guys.
Yeah. They just kind of found a home, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, it was risky. It was like, I have the opportunity to open up a shop, but do I have anyone that's going to come work at it? At the time, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just like, hopefully there's enough sober tattooers in the industry that are looking for a new home, and was able to promote it accordingly, like, hey, sober shop, new shop, uptown Minneapolis. If anyone's interested, let's build something together.
For sure.
Donnie was the first one to come, but I met my apprentice at a tattoo convention 2 years ago, came up with his portfolio and was like, hey, just got out of art school. Here's my portfolio. Checked out their portfolio and just immediately got good vibes. And I was like, listen, I'm not in a position to apprentice you right now, but if you want to come and hang out with me at my nonprofit and just help me at my new shop, if there's a spot for you comes open, obviously all the help that you put in will mean a lot,
Right.
And that ended up working out. And it was me, Henry, and Donnie for the first little while. And then right around that time, one of the other artists, Coleman, actually moved 2 blocks away.
Oh, wow.
And Coleman's also native. And Coleman just kind of hit me up one day and he's like, hey, I'm moving from Wisconsin to the Twin Cities. I'm Indigenous and I'd love to work at an Indigenous shop.
Right.
And it was totally meant to be, because Coleman was like, oh shit, actually I'm moving, 2 blocks away from the shop. So
yeah, it made sense.
Coleman hopped on the team and it was just us for a while, and then some other artists came through and slowly built up, and then we started to learn more of what are the values of the shop, and how can we really determine which artists are going to align
create a system
with our energy.
Yeah, create a good system, good environment for everybody. I know you guys highlighted that before we started, just on the little small talk. And Dia, you didn't really apprenticeship. You didn't have an apprenticeship, right? You just kind of
Basically
started at 12.
Started
This is a
at
wild
12,
story.
Met a bunch of really cool tattooers that were not judgmental and just said they were just supportive of 16-year-old me wanting to tattoo, and they were just like, here's what you should do, and I followed everything that they pretty much told me to do. Yeah. What's kind of crazy, I don't really tell a lot of people it, but my dream when I was 12 was to own a tattoo shop that was tattoos, piercings, but I also really wanted to do hair at the time. I wanted to do nails, makeup, and it's super cool because
how's it feel?
Right upstairs there's a hair salon.
That's what I've seen,
right next door there's lip injections and stuff, and so it's really cool because we all refer people to each other. I feel like this spot is perfect, to be honest. It's cool.
The art shelf, you kind of explained how it all started, but where is it at right now as far as your guys' events and plans, future goals, things like that for what?
Yeah, art shelf. I feel like we're on the verge of expanding. It took a while for us to learn the blueprint. You know what I mean?
Right.
What works? How many volunteers does it take to run it? How much money does it take? What are the core necessities? What are the core values? What do we need to learn in order to replicate this somewhere else? Because the idea is, it would be fucking sick if we got an art shelf in every community that there's a food shelf. You know what I mean?
Right. Same with clothing and even just a shelter, the homeless,
Yeah. So once we're able to identify the need and that, art shelf can be replicated and kind of figured out what it's going to take to do that. I think we're just at that spot now where it's all right, well, now we can, start looking around for site 2. And I think we found one
expanding.
Yeah, over here in downtown Minneapolis. I actually go tomorrow to go look at it.
Oh, sick.
And it's 2.5 times bigger than the current art shelf. But we'll be able to, we'll be more downtown, centrally located, and you know, it's a big bite, but I think it's what Artshelf kind of needs to really scale up.
Yeah.
And to be able to like show other communities that want to get involved with Artshelf, like, hey, look, we can replicate this and it can work. Like, as long as there's enough businesses in town to invest into covering rent, or if there's like a free space within a community for us to, you know, do some programming and have
Right.
the space, like, we can easily put one in your community.
Yeah, yeah. And that's huge for the community. That's like such an uplift, you know? You have something like an organization like that, a nonprofit, just to give back and help. When the day you came in to find when you came to Artshelf, before it was Artshelf, what was that day like? Did you just show up to see, were you doing an event that day, or was it like speaking or like a workshop? Like, how did you hear about the shop? Like,
So Willard had added me on Facebook, and at the time I didn't know who he was. And I was like,
Did I add you? I feel like you added me.
you added me, I remember, because I specifically showed Veronica and I said, hey, you're a mutual friend. Who is this person? And she was like, oh, that dude's cool.
yeah.
You know, one of my friends that I tattooed with at the time, she was like, oh, that dude's really cool.
Oh yeah, I think I remember because someone was saying that you were a native tattooer.
And I was just,
Oh yeah, you tattooed. Remember that client that I did that big back piece on?
no.
You do. You did his hand.
Okay.
You do. You do know him.
Oh, I do know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh.
Anyways, I had seen like Willard like advertising, you know, that he was opening this shop. And at the time I was like, oh, that's fucking sick. Because he's
Right.
like, you know, he's Indigenous and that's really cool. So I just wanted to see the shop. At the time I wasn't like really big on like leaving where I was. But I definitely knew I like wanted to.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was really worried that it was a new shop. So I came and just checked it out. And at the time, Artshelf was, you know, this huge art space. It was super cool because when I first walked in here, there was only, like Willard said, Donnie, Henry, and him. And so I came and met everyone. We kind of just chatted. He showed me Artshelf, and I was like, that's sick. Well, I seen on Facebook that Willard and his friends were like doing one of those merge events that he was hosting at the time.
Yep.
And so I was like, I'm going to go check that out. And like I came and I seen like so many different artists like making art while they were also playing music. And it was just like,
It's like a mini festival.
yeah, it was
That's so
just
dope,
really
yeah.
cool. And Willard was like, oh yeah, all the proceeds are donated to Artshelf.
It wasn't Artshelf.
Oh yeah, it wasn't. It
Right.
wasn't.
Right. That's the pre.
That's yeah.
yeah.
So he was just like pairing up, with one of his friends, and but I just thought it was cool because I seen multiple different artists from the area selling all of their artwork, and it was just like music and like mocktails, and that's when I found out that everyone here was sober.
A sober shop.
Yeah, and I had been
Right.
sober at the time for I think a month or 2 months. And you know, being in the tattoo industry, it's hard because I was just getting into sobriety, and it was hard for me. Like I was taking it pretty hard because I was like, you know, I still want to go hang out with everybody, but if I go hang out with everybody, I'm going to want to drink. And
Heck yeah.
so seeing that like everyone over here was sober and how supportive they were of like just artists in general, I was like, this is the place for me.
Right.
You know,
found a little home.
yeah, it did. That's what it felt like when I first walked in here. Was like, it
That's
felt
so
like I was
that's
at
so
home.
crazy though, thinking about it now, like in hindsight, how you were saying like, hey, family struggled with all these, like there's a history of addictions or history of, you know, you're trying to get away from it, not raise the kids in this environment, and then you stumble upon a place where it's like a sober environment. It's like, talk about the destiny, huh?
No, seriously,
Right.
and not even expecting it. And ultimately, that was like
Okay.
my main decision on like why I was like, yeah, this is a shop that I want to work at.
For sure.
Because it was like an art studio, and I had just gotten into painting, like painting bigger paintings.
Sure,
I
bigger
should say.
scale stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, and I can't just have that at home
Right.
because I have 5 kids, and like having a large, 30 by 40 canvas sitting at home isn't ideal.
Yeah.
And I really believed in what Willard was trying to do for the community. Like, just hearing him talk and hearing like, everything he wanted to see and do and how supportive he was, I was just like, I want that.
That's sick.
I want to be a part of that.
Right.
Like, I want to help with this. And like meeting Donnie, and the first week I guest spotted, Donnie was just a big part of why I moved here too. Cause he was like, no, don't go back. Stay here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
He
Yeah.
was like, no, you're meant to be here. And I was
That's
like,
so sick.
I am meant to be here.
You know what? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, God damn
Pumping
it,
each other up. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like
Hell yeah.
an environment that I had never really worked in before, that was just like, everyone was like so motivating each other,
Yeah.
but also like, it's cool because we can shit talk with each other.
Right.
And like,
Everyone's at the same like level and
yeah.
like-minded people.
Very like-minded
Right.
people. And so it was just like, it was so cool.
Yeah. So the philosophy of like the minimal waste for the shop, where did that come from? Like, did you just feel like, hey, I want to be eco-friendly?
So I feel like that whole just energy for me started in prison when I'm like, really thinking like, how am I going to change myself from who I used to be to who like I want to be?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think, for me in prison, that started with, I want to quit eating animals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I really started to like grasp onto like Zen philosophy and like just sort of like Buddhist understanding of like reducing suffering in the planet.
For sure.
And I, the more I like meditated on my values and like identified like where can I reduce the amount of suffering I have on the planet or the community, you know what I mean? Like as a recovering criminal with 17 felony convictions, all of them in the Twin Cities, like how can I, give back in some sort of like restorative justice aspect to not only my community, but to like the planet and just like the universe in general? Like how can I work in ways to like make it more
footprint,
less impact of suffering in my community and my planet. And that kind of just grew into like me wanting to be plant-based and live a cleaner, better life. And then that grew into like, the world is failing, the systems we have is failing.
Right.
We're creating so much waste, and I just wanted to start making commitments towards making better choices. And so when it came time to like opening up the tattoo shop, I was so into just being plant-based and trying to like learn about new ways to do things. Like I'm still not perfect. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like after just being like an, ignorant criminal for the majority of my life, like I still learn new ways to be a better person all the time.
Sure.
And like better ways to be like eco-friendly and stuff like that. But, thanks to companies like Good Judy and, that are like, their focus aligns with a lot of like my spiritual direction about like, let's just make better conscious choices as an industry to like reducing the impact that we have, like not just on, the planet, but just like ourselves spiritually, right? And I feel like that also that ties back to like some in indigenous philosophy,
right.
Not just like in Zen philosophy, but like being curators of the planet and like needing to like be more mindful of the products and the choices that we have in life. And so
is that how you ran into the company? Is it the Good Judy?
Yeah,
right?
Good Judy.
Yeah.
Yep, they're out of Canada. And I'm like looking up, ways to be more like mindful and the products I purchase, I stumbled onto Good Judy and, you know, read their mission statement and how they really believe in, like, you know, indigenous culture and reducing waste. And they're just like, I don't know, I feel like aligned with everything that I aligned with as a person. And the more and more I looked into the company, I was just like spiritually sold on their mission. I'm like, wow, that's like your love. This is like the dream. Jam. This is like the dream fucking company for me to like invest my time in and support. And, you know, like, I've tried other like eco-friendly products, and, you know, as a tattooer, you like predictability, you like good products, you know what I mean? Because, yeah, they could have like the best mission in the world, but if their ink caps are disintegrating, like, it's hard to stand behind that. You know what I mean? But no,
you look at your tray and it's just like mush.
Good Judy products are fire. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
for sure.
And they keep trying to find new ways to be innovative. Like, they're not just like releasing the same shit that they've been releasing, you know, since they started. Like, they're constantly looking.
That makes sense, because you guys just said it's like whether it's with your art or just yourself as a person, how can you make it better? Like, if you find a way, you're going to continue that and pursue it and keep pushing forward. You know, there
was some scares when, you know, we're doing all the, you know, America's doing all those tariffs on Canada. Like, that was kind of nerve-wracking, because it's like, you know, fuck, we gotta stock up. You know what I mean? And but they, you know, there wasn't as much of a shipping crisis as anticipated. But just like in general, like, you know, their shipping can take a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we've had packages just completely go lost, or like have to get shipped back. And I mean, you know, you just learn to take the loss and then reorder.
They're good about that, yeah.
But, you know, they're such a great company. They're worth supporting. And like I said, when we hosted that tattoo convention, the Minnesota Akitho Festival, Good Judy stepped up and they sponsored the festival, and they sent us enough products for every artist at the festival to use just, you know, eco-friendly products. Yeah. They sent us cases of gloves and, you know, enough like station supplies for everyone to use. And
to be able to provide that supply for everyone, that's insane.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like, I don't know. It's cool to support them and just see them grow as a business.
For sure. So how was that impact from the convention that's something you started, right? Like, you created this convention, you're like, get all these indigenous artists together. It is like an impactful thing, right?
Yeah. It was cool to just like show up for the indigenous community. I feel like, you know, we as indigenous people, we have a lot of like traditional cultural things to go to. Round dances, powwows, ceremony. And we're looking to kind of like create something that honored all that, but blended it with like contemporary culture things. So we had hip hop artists. We, you know, we were bringing in tattooing. We were bringing in like vendors that were vending, you know, traditional stuff, but also like newer age stuff, like cannabis products and stuff like that. But also like trying to honor traditional things and like progressive, contemporary indigenous products and music and tattooing, and sort of like bring it all together into like a weekend festival. So, you know, I got a business loan for that from a really cool organization called the Minnesota Fund, and they, you know, look to enable indigenous entrepreneurs and organizations. And so shout out the Minnesota Fund, because it wouldn't happen if it wasn't. Minnesota Fund. If it wasn't for them and their faith in me, you know, we wouldn't have been able to make it happen. I mean, the festival was an honor to organize and curate for the community. Right. Like, I consider it an absolute success. It was, I mean, we had a great turnout. First and foremost, nobody got hurt. You know, the community came together. We actually got a proclamation from the governor that it's now a state holiday. The Minnesota Akitho Festival Day is every year on March 14th now in the state of Minnesota. It's now a state holiday, but also nobody got hurt. And to me, that's like, as an organizer, that's like the best thing. And, you know, all the vendors were happy. All the tattoo artists were happy. There was
The
no
crowd, did
complaints.
people show up as far as like attendees and stuff? Like,
Yeah, like everyone was stoked. The only part that the festival didn't really work out was financially, right? So we went big budget style. We spent money. We ended up not getting as many tattoo artists as originally projected.
sure.
The hotel costs was nearly double. So
Okay.
like we got the venue for like a really good deal, which was $20,000
Sure.
for 4 days for 40,000 square feet, and the costs that were kind of hidden ended up really stacking up. So
It's all little stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it ended
Yeah.
up being like $36,000 we paid to the hotel.
Wow.
Like the music equipment ended up being closer to $10,000. We spent like $20,000 on music performances. You know, and once you start like adding up costs of like even just lanyards,
It all
right?
adds up. Yeah.
You know what I mean? All that stuff. Like it was a complete financial flop, and I honestly I was sad and depressed, and like was
Sure.
just like kind of after the festival. I mean, like yeah, it was a success everywhere except for financially, and I was like, you know, doing everything I could to keep myself from like a spiral, because obviously as an addict it's easy to just get depressed.
Sure.
And I'm like, I'm a failure, the festival was a failure, like I suck, we didn't make any money. But you know, I kept on just kind of affirming myself that, you know, it was something great that we did, and you know, I
Yeah,
have
it's just
it.
time to regroup and just,
Yeah,
you know.
and not only that, I feel like everyone that I talked to said, you know, it was the best convention that they had ever attended. That goes for both attendees and all of the tattooers as well. So I don't know. I thought it was really fun. And
Yeah.
the whole time, like, it all just kind of smoothly went together. Yeah, it sucked that it, like, financially failed, but everywhere else was, like, perfect.
Just solid. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
it was
all
great
the
energy.
tattooers.
I mean, it was great energy, and like we had, you know, it wasn't just tattooing and music.
Right.
Like it was the vendors, it was the performances. We had partnerships.
The tattooers were all booked out, like, all weekend.
That's good to see, though. I feel like that's the successful part of it, and then everything else is the learning curve, because it's not like
Right.
it's not like your background is coordinator, event coordinator, and like, you know what I mean, like.
Oh no, and it was 3 of us that organized the entire thing.
Right. So
You know
think
what
of it that way. Now it's kind of like just regroup and hit the drawing board again, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at right now, is just starting to make the plans for next year. Going to start reaching out to artists to make sure that they get it in their calendar for next year.
Anybody that wants to be a part of that, where can they find, or where can they keep an eye out as far as like
So-
when it starts promotional?
If they follow the tattoo shop,
Okay, you'll kind of keep everybody
Iktomi
up to date.
Tattoo,
Yeah.
or we have the Akitho Festival has its own
Page,
Instagram,
yeah.
and it has its own website. So we're going to start probably promoting and making moves in that here in the next month. This last year, we kind of opened it up to just BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous people of color. Just showcasing Indigenous people.
Yep.
But we had a lot of non-traditional Indigenous
Right.
allies and
Right.
family
Right.
that tattooed there too. So
That leaves a huge open door for a lot of other artists that are wanting to attend also, you know what I mean?
yeah, it was a great we just basically called it like a cultural celebration.
Cool.
An Indigenous cultural celebration. There's a saying about border schools back in the day.
Yeah, the
just
border-
like
yeah, yeah.
Indigenous people about kill the Indian, save the human.
Yes.
Or kill the
Have you
savage, save the
tattooed
human.
that before?
So I tattooed kill the Wasichu, save the
Wasichu,
human.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you
So Wasichu is just a term used by Dakota people for white settlers and
Sure,
colonizers
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. He works in the Indigenous community. He was actually one of the runners from the Dakota 38
Dope.
that wanted the tattoo, and I just it was a
Right.
cool thing. And I mean, I feel like right now Indigenous culture is super progressive, radicalized, which I think is great.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially when we express the justice energy in like healthy forms. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
Like in a positive way, not a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that they're, you know, it would be a perfect world if the American government was able to concede and give back indigenous lands. You know what I mean? And there was, in my mind, my ideal future is that there's a peaceful way to compromise and to come to some sort of like, not just like a land acknowledgement, but like, maybe we restore sacred lands completely to the sole ownership of indigenous people through like some like shared, you know what I mean, occupancy. So we're not like just kicking off people from their land, but they know that they are existing on indigenous land. And instead of paying state taxes, you're paying your property taxes to the indigenous people that were the rightful owners that were fucked out of treaties.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Because I think it'll only be through compromises like that such a thing would ever play out. You know what I mean? And it's hard to keep that in mind because I believe in like the land back movement. I believe the Black Hills need to be returned. You look at those treaties and, you know, people were fucked. People were lied to. Like, you know, by all rights, you know, all of that belongs back. You know what I mean? And being a member of the Ocheti Sakowin, my dad's, you know, 100% indigenous. Being an enrolled member of Standing Rock Reservation, like there's a lot of radicalized movements like that.
Sure.
And I think that there's a way to get it back, and I think it's easy to adopt warrior mentality and want to like force that on people. And I think like if it would work that way, that would be intense. But I think a lot of times people forget that there has to be some compromise and that kind of stuff. We won't take these lands from you, and you know, like you will always have this. And sure enough, we found gold on there. Just kidding. You know what I mean? All that shit that we just said. Actually, fuck that.
That's
you know what I mean?
sideways,
Like, you know, I know we said we would never go through your land, but now we're going to need all that land.
But actually,
you know what I mean?
That's so harsh, man.
And then the American government expects everywhere else to hold up to their treaties.
Seems like that's happening all around the world.
Absolutely, right? It's a full 360 sometimes with all this repeating itself. It's bizarre. Right.
I feel like I'm still just a small fish learning.
Sure. No, for sure.
You know what I mean? My place in.
It's the humble side of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I have people that I idolize in the Minnesota scene that are just slayers. You know what I mean? And it's like, I feel like I'm still trying to like learn my place and all that. Yeah. I've only been sober tattooing for, 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
You know, and all that stuff of tattooing before, like there was only like, maybe 3 years in an actual shop. You know what I mean? All the rest of it was like renegade mode.
Renegade,
out of that 15 years I was tattooing, I was in prison for almost 4 years of that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm still like learning my place in the community, and I'm just honored to like have peers in the tattoo industry that accept me and, help mentor me, and guide me to show up as a respectable tattooer in our community. I don't think I've had that like breakthrough moment, like maybe opening up the shop and just being like a sober tattooer in community is kind of
that's big in itself.
What helped just kind of like have me have a presence in the Minnesota scene.
Yeah, that's really big in itself. I was curious about being, the sober Indigenous dad. What do you carry down as far as like legacy to the kids?
So for my 13-year-old, it's easy for him to understand, you know what I mean? And so like because I wasn't around for the majority of his life.
For sure. Yeah.
And I know he's seen me grow. You know what I mean? Because even from when I first like met him and introduced myself as dad to him,
Right.
I had only just gotten out of prison and only been sober for a short amount of time. And his mom was actually like on her way into prison and ended up going to prison. And then, you know, he moved up with family and stuff. And
Yeah.
he still hasn't spent much time in like our culture. But, you know, he's seen me grow a lot these last 4 years, 5 years. And then my 3-year-old only knows sober, healthy dad. You know what I mean?
That's wild. Two different perspectives.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
And where like my 13-year-old has parents that were both in prison. You know what I mean?
Seeing a different side of it.
and knows when
Yeah.
they were in prison and remembers when I wasn't around.
Or even just a new, like, reinvented dad. Like, where it's like you're present, make an account, and then you got the business. So it's like you got to balance this business life. Are you still doing the speaking to, like, people that are, like, they come in and you do, like, workshops or something?
Oh,
with,
yeah.
Like, the art?
Yeah. I actually, normally on Thursdays, I go into prison and I teach art and wellness.
Oh, wow.
And so it worked out that it was a holiday today.
Yeah.
And so they canceled all programming for the holiday, so I was able to be here. But normally I go into a prison that I actually used to be a prisoner at, and I go in there and I teach art and wellness, and facilitate and kind of share my experience and, you know, tell people about sort of like what I know about art and how it saved my life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm able to preach the gospel of creativity and how, you know, as an artist, as long as you can find a community and resources, how you can just use art supplies as a method to save your life.
That's pretty bizarre, huh?
It's cool. It's interesting going in there through the front door and leaving every day. But it definitely, again, doing that kind of service work, even though I'm getting paid, you know, I still consider it service work.
Sure.
Like it helps me in my sobriety.
For sure.
And
Keeps you, like, really focused on, it's like that locked in, huh?
yeah. It's so surreal. There was a tornado drill, and being there like as like a worker at the prison, it's like, oh, tornado drill, and we all like go down in these underground tunnels, and I'm like, holy fuck, I completely forgot about this place. Like, we did a tornado drill when I was an inmate there, and we go into these underground tunnels of the prison, and I was like, I never would have thought I'd be here again, just like hanging out for a tornado drill.
You're on the other side now.
Yeah. It was so strange.
What do you think all that taught you, the time that no book could have taught you, as far as like the self-help books, and you go in there, you learn structure, or you really, because you could have gone one or two directions, and the cycle of going back and forth in and out, but you chose to make the change.
Yeah. I was blessed with being at rock bottom, right?
Oh, sure.
Sometimes people don't have that luxury of actually hitting their like rock bottom and being able to acknowledge that like this is rock bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was blessed with at least the ability to perceive that I was a fucking loser. You know what I mean? And I wasn't like ignorant to the rock bottom. I was able to like feel the extent of that suffering. And I was like, I don't like this and I don't want to do this again. And it happened in like day one in jail. I'm like sitting there, you know, really questioning like, what are my next moves? Like, I know I have a bunch of charges in this county. Like, you know, am I going to double down on being a criminal and just try to focus all this time on being the best criminal I can be? Or should I actually fucking surrender to being an artist and a good person? And like my universal understanding is that like, you know, we can have an effect on our outcome based on like our energy and where we're at, right? And where our spirit is actually like investing in like manifesting the future, right? And I was like, I'm over that criminal shit. I'm over this prison shit. And if I can have any impact on the outcome of these court cases or the amount of time I have in prison, it's the only way I'm going to have an impact or affect that is if I make a real life commitment to be sober and to be good, and it be a real commitment, not just because I want a certain outcome. Like I actually I need to commit to
Make it
changing.
happen.
And so I made that commitment, and I just was like, I'm just going to be an artist. And even if I'm, a fucking lame, I'm just going to be lame and normal.
Yeah.
And I chose not to get high that time in jail or prison. And like one thing after another started working out for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And every single time I'm like, my intuition was, it's working out because you made that commitment. You know what I mean? Like what are the odds of this situation happening where now all of a sudden, like, I'm blessed in this like obscure,
wild,
unpredictable aspect. Like, it has to be because I made this commitment. Like, there's no way, statistical odds of this occurring for me were astronomical.
Yeah.
Because it was easy to run the odds of like, oh, I'm looking at, all this time, and, I end up getting, only doing 3.5 or 2.5 years in prison.
Right.
And I got sentenced to 78 months, and I was in a scenario where there was no way I was going to get boot camp or any early release programming because I had out-of-state warrants. But through this crazy, obscure situation, I was able to get my out-of-state warrants taken care of, and I was able to get out.
That's crazy.
And I was able to be there for when both my parents died. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I was a mama's boy.
Right.
I was, raised by my mom, but I was able to be there and hold my dad's hand as he died, and I was able to spend time with my mom. She was able to see me sober and, living a healthy life right before she died. And like, if I was incarcerated during those times, I would not have been okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'd been tough too.
But I knew that, all of those circumstances happened because I made a real life commitment to sobriety and being good.
Right. Man, that's such a change, change of lens. I mean, that's ultimately what it takes is you really, really have to want it.
Yeah.
It's like the baseline of that too.
Or you just got, for me, I talk to, groups all the time and share my story. For me, it was like I had to surrender to the slow, painful process of it leveling out.
Sure.
Right? Because you want it to just be like, oh, I learned my lesson. Life should be good now.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's not. Oftentimes there's despair attached to that. There's boredom, which most people can't get over. Like, you just got to get used to being bored and, level. And it just takes time for the universe to kind of cash in those checks, because the way I saw it is like I owed like a karma debt for all the shit I was doing and got away with.
Yep.
Like, this shit is going to come back to me. You know what I mean? And I need to be willing to swallow that pill when it happens. And, but I was like, but as long as I'm not like actively making dumb fucking choices, it will eventually level out. Like, and the only way for me to not go in further universal debt is by just being a good person.
Yeah. Changing that up.
Yeah. And so I stood there and took all the losses for a couple years, and then finally, like, the losses kind of quit happening. And then I'm like, am I even? You know what I mean? Right. I still feel like there are some lessons in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Still paying in something.
Yeah. And I was a thief, right? I was a burglar. Most of my charges are property crimes for like burglarizing and drug dealing. So like, when I was out there actively burglarizing, I still had this like universal awareness that like, karma and what you do, you get. And I remember thinking while I was out there, like, I'll be okay stealing this person's motorcycle because I'm fine with, a motorcycle being stolen from me someday. Or like, the equivalent of a motorcycle being taken from me. I'm okay with that exchange.
Yeah.
Well, after like years of living like that, when I'm sitting in prison, going through it, being like, all right, how are these balances? Can I come back? Mm-hmm. I started, my dad had a stroke when I was incarcerated. My mom tripped and fell and like broke her hip on some ice. And I'm like in prison, like crying. And I'm starting to like look at these pictures of these kids that I don't have in my life anymore. And I'm like, fuck, it's not stuff that the universe is going to steal from me.
Right.
It's people. It's
Yeah.
like this time with my family and the
That's
people I
your-
care
that's the
about. Like
repay, yeah.
I didn't, nothing ended up being robbed from me. I ended up robbing myself of time with these children or
Right.
time with my parents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it like the exchange wasn't stuff, it was people. And time with my mom and dad. Like fuck, just the other night I was crying because I'm like remembering my mom and like I should have fucking given my mom more time. You know what I mean? I should have been with my mom more. Like I should have made her feel as loved as I loved her. You know what I mean? Like I was so self-centered and only gave a fuck about myself that, I always thought there'd be another day with my mom somewhere in there. And it just, by the time I was out of prison, my mom was, in her late 60s and not very healthy. And the time that I thought I was going to have with her, I didn't have.
It's bizarre though, because she's the one that kind of helped you lead into this industry as a
Oh
tattoo.
yeah,
You know
and
what
my
I mean?
mom was the most supportive, enabling mom
Like
there
your-
ever was.
Like
You know what I mean?
your first, experience on tattooing on skin was with your mom. That's pretty wild to think.
Oh, I was a mom. I am still a mama's boy.
Right.
Fuck, I love my mom more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, I used to hug my mom and be like, I have to become really smart so I can be a scientist and I can figure out how to make my mom live forever.
Yeah.
Like that was my dream as a little kid. Is like
Fucking
I need
Anakin
to-
over here. Is
You know what I
like,
mean? I'm like, I need to figure out how to make my mom live forever because
Right.
there's no way my mom can ever die.
for sure.
You know what I mean?
I feel it.
That's how your mom lives forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. So what's in the future plans for you guys, the shop, like conventions or any kind of travel plans?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, not all of us, I guess. Most of us, we like conventions.
Yeah.
I like the idea of making art with my peers. You know what I mean? And
sure.
just networking and getting community building. So like conventions are great because you get to talk to people and
Yeah,
just kinda,
absolutely.
show up, make art with your homies.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Boise.
We
guys
were
do-
going to go to Boise.
I thought we were still going.
No, it's the same weekend as the Twin Cities.
I'm not saying for the convention, but
Oh.
that is a plan.
So you guys are gonna do the Twin Cities?
Yeah, we're doing the Twin Cities Tattoo Fest.
Okay.
We've done that for last year, and we've all done it as like individuals. So we like
badass.
doing stuff like that together as a shop.
That's rad, man. That's really good insight, especially now with the fest.
The Akitho Festival.
Yeah.
Akitho is a contemporary Dakota word for tattoo.
So any convention opportunities though, you guys try to roll out like a shop.
Oh yeah,
For sure, yeah.
Especially as long as it aligns with my parenting time.
Right.
And honestly, I'm okay doing less conventions if I get more parenting time with
Right.
my kid.
That's
You know what I mean?
just- that's
so
the-
I'm like in the process of going to court for that and figuring that out.
That's the stride right now. Yeah. The question for, I guess, both of y'all is one set of advice you'd give to somebody from experiences to this point. What would that be if you could grasp it all in one?
The more positivity you push out, the more that comes back. I would say, I guess.
Nice.
And that's in all aspects of life. That's of creating art. That's of, being a parent. That's being a friend.
Right.
It's your outlook on life. I feel like personally, you got to find gratefulness in everything.
I always try to tell people the only way that you can if something is truly eating away at you, the best way to get over it is to expose it. And just for me, I had a lot of criminal shame for
Right.
the longest time. I fucking sucked. Or again, I was a fucking ghetto tattooer.
Yeah.
I fucking was trash.
Renegade
And
Inc.
a lot of way to grow out of that is to expose it and just
Right.
be upfront and transparent. And it just becomes smaller the more you expose it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And the more you're just willing to wear your true colors out there and put in effort, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets smaller. And I think people, it's easy to exist in hustler mentality, especially if you're coming out of addiction or just starting something new.
Yeah.
you want that shit quick, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like what I found for me that helped me is like if I switch my mentality from like that like hustler mentality to like a farmer mentality, and you just get used to like planting seeds of prosperity, you know what I mean? And then staring at the dirt, you know what I mean? And a lot of times people where they fuck up is they'll plant these seeds of opportunity and prosperity, and they'll water it once, and they're like, nothing's fucking happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's super
Instant
easy to get
gratification is not-
easy to get
yeah, yeah,
anxious and try to move on to somewhere
Right.
else and plant some more seeds. And it just takes time, especially if you're trying to like grow a new person, like you're
Sure.
trying to change from who you were. You can't just like do a couple things different one day and expect to be a new person the next day.
Right.
It takes time. You know what I mean? And you just gotta switch from that like fast moving mentality to that farmer mentality, and be willing to stare at the dirt and just know that eventually some shit's gonna pop through.
Right.
And there's nothing more exciting than results. Like when you start seeing something pop through the dirt and you're like, holy fuck!
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It
And
could be a
you
little
really
root,
start like
yeah.
watering yourself and taking
Right.
care of yourself. And as long as you are patient and are mindful and like give yourself the room to grow, like there will be fruit someday. You know what I mean? And it's all about just taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. Where can people find you guys' shop, your Instagram? Plug that in.
So I'm just, I think, what am I? I'm Will Male Bear on Instagram. Just WILAMALEBEAR.
Okay.
But, you know,
Like people want to reach out to you to book in for that convention, they could just reach the shop, right?
yep, just reach out to the shop.
Cool.
Iktomi Tattoo.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I appreciate you guys being able to be part of the project once again, and thanks to the shop. With that said, man, later on to the next one. Appreciate you guys, man. Thank you.
Yeah.